Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Astora Shishyamat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Astora Shishyamat His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananti Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Naam Acharya Slaridas Thakur Ki Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Sisi Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Navadip Dham Ki Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 12, text 52, and this is the last verse in the 12th chapter, and the pastimes, at least not complete yet, but the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj. So we'll read the Sanskrit, we'll do the word for word. Idam Maya Te Abhihitam Kuru Udvaha Dhruvasya Vikyata Visuddha Karmana Hitva Arbaka Kridankani Matu Griham Vishnum Saranam Ya Jagama Idam Maye Te Abhihitam Kurutvaha Dhruvasya Vikyata Vishuddha Karmana Idvarbaka Kridana Kani Matur Griham Cha Vishnum Saranam Yo Jagama Idam Mayete Abhihitam Kurudvaha Dhruvasya Vikyata Vishuddha Karmana Hidvarbaka Kridana Kani Matur Griham Cha Vishnum Saranam Yo Jagama Idam Mayete Abhihitam Kurudvaha Dhruvasya Vikyata Vishuddha Karmana Hidvarbaka Kridana Kanimatur Griham cha Vishnum Saranam Yojagama Idam Mayete Abhihitam Kurudvaha Dhruvasya Vikyata Vishuddha Karmana Hidvarbaka Kridani Kani Matur Griham cha Vishnum Saranam Yojagama Idam Mayete Abhihitam Kurudvaha Dhruvasya Vikyata Vishuddha Karmana Hidvarbaka Kridani Kani Matur Griham cha Vishnum Saranam Yojagama Idam Mayete Abhihitam Kurudvaha Dhruvasya Vikyata Vishuddha Karmana Hidvarbaka Kridani Kana Matur Griham cha Vishnum Saranam Yojagama Idam, this, Maya, by me, Te, unto you, Abhihitam, describe, Kurudvaha, O great one among the Kurus, Dhruvasya, of Dhruva, Vikyata, very famous, Visuddha, very pure, Karmana, whose activities, Hidva, giving up, Arbaka, child, Kridankani, toys and playthings, Matu, of his mother, Griham, home, Cha, also, Vishnu, to Lord Vishnu, Saranam, shelter, Ya, one who, Jagama, went. The translation, the transcendental activities of Dhruva Maharaj are well known all over the world, and they are very pure. In childhood, Dhruva Maharaj rejected all kinds of toys and playthings, left the protection of his mother, and seriously took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. My dear Vidur, I therefore conclude this narration, for I have described to you all its details. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is said by Chanakya Pandit that life is certainly short for everyone, but if one acts properly, his reputation will remain for a generation. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is everlasting famous, so the reputation of Lord Krishna's devotees is also everlasting. Therefore, in describing Dhruva Maharaj's activities, two specific words have been used. Vikyata, very famous, and Vishuddha, transcendental. Dhruva Maharaj's leaving home at a tender age and taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the forest is a unique example in this world. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto 12th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Dhruva Maharaj Goes Back to Godhead. The verse again. The transcendental activities of Dhruva Maharaj are well known all over the world, and they are very pure. In childhood, Dhruva Maharaj rejected all kinds of toys and playthings, left the protection of his mother, and seriously took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. My dear Vidur, I therefore conclude this narration, for I describe to you all its details. So in the purport, there's two words. It's a very short purport, and there's two words that we will try to discuss. Vikyata, very famous, and Vishuddha, very pure. Vishuddha means very pure. So these two words, purity, we all are looking for purity. We want to become pure. You know, a devotee generally doesn't look for material advancement. Nor does he look for material benediction. But sometimes a person may go to the Supreme Lord with some motive, which we'll discuss later, to satisfy his material desires. And this was in the case of Dhruva Maharaj. It is mentioned in one of the purports, Prabhupada mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, unless one is raised to the spiritual platform, it is not possible for him to completely transcend all material contamination. So sometimes you may find, you say, hey, but this person here, he's worshipping the Lord, but he still have material desires. And people may criticize. But the person who's criticizing, is he free? Is he free? Yes or no? He may not be free. So yet Dhruva Maharaj, his heart was pierced. In one of the verses, in the 4th canto, but in another chapter, chapter 9, text 29, it's explained in the verse that how his heart was pierced with the arrows of harsh words of his stepmother. And he felt very aggrieved. And he did not forget her misbehavior. He didn't forget it. And therefore, he really didn't demand actual liberation. He didn't. But in the end, when the Supreme Personality of God had appeared before him, he was ashamed of his material demands that he had in his mind. That he wanted so much of opulence. And Dhruva, he felt remorseful. The thing is, if somebody hurts you with words, it pierces your heart. And this is something that you don't overcome so easily. It takes a long time. But as a devotee, we must learn to forgive and overcome that. Because it will cause you a lot of pain. And you may not go back to God. That will be one of your obstacles. Dhruva Maharaj was in one sense became a pure devotee. But in the beginning, he had material desires. And in the material world, one's material desires are most demonic. One thinks of others as enemies. You're thinking of that fellow is my enemy. And therefore you try to take revenge from your enemies. Also in the material world, one wants to become the topmost leader or the topmost person in the material world. And thus there's competition with others. This is described in the Bhagavad Gita in the 16th chapter. It's demonic. The chapter is titled Divine and Demonic Natures. When one tries to become the topmost person, a devotee doesn't do that. He just humbly serves Krishna. He accepts the responsibility That is also a sign of humility. But he humbly and submissively serves the Lord without these type of qualities we are discussing. Revenge. Becoming the best. Like, as practitioners of ourselves, we have to learn. Even if we in a spiritual organization, we can aspire to have these things. We want to become the topmost. We want to become the most learned. But a pure devotee, the word Vishuddha, we're discussing Vishuddha, which is in the purport and the verse itself. A pure devotee has no demands from the Lord. He doesn't demand anything. He's very sincerely and seriously serving the Lord. And his only concern is to serve. In a book, in the Mukunda Mala Stotra, which King Kulashekar is the author of the book, he states in a prayer, and I'll read it. My dear Lord, I do not want any positions of sense gratification within the material world. I simply want to engage in your service perpetually. Like yesterday, I was at the University of Durban, the Westville campus, and where Prabhupada went also to the Westville campus. And we are discussing how to become peaceful. And the only way you can become peaceful is when you try to refrain from satisfying your senses. There are objects there, but you refrain from it. You control your senses. Then you feel a happiness from within. Then you'll become peaceful. Otherwise you can't become peaceful. This is a material world. Just like this verse. And even Lord Chaitanya in his Shishastika, he also prayed, that I do not want, what's that verse, the fourth verse? I do not want any material world. I do not want materialistic followers. Nor do I want to enjoy. The only thing that I require is that I will engage in the service of the Lord, birth after birth. So Dhruva Maharaj, he was influenced by a revengeful attitude because his mother had insulted him. So therefore he did not think of liberation. That was not in his mind. He didn't think about that. But a pure devotee, when somebody becomes pure, or Vishuddha, somebody becomes a pure devotee, he also doesn't want liberation. Like one of the characteristics of pure devotional service is that he derides the conception of liberation. But Dhruva Maharaj, then he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead before him. So he was elevated to the Vasudev platform. And the Vasudev platform means the pure stage, Vishuddha. There's no contamination. In other words, basically there's no question of the material modes of nature. Goodness, passion, ignorance. And therefore, you can see Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when you become free, then you can see Krishna. And we will discuss in the end about also about this point. Sri Raghunath ki, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki. Because on this Vasudev platform, on this pure stage, one can see God face to face. But Dhruva Maharaj, he wanted an exalted position. He wanted to be even superior to Brahma. He wanted to enjoy opulences even greater than Brahma. But then the Supreme Lord is also kind. He also fulfills the desires of his devotee. And especially in the case of Dhruva Maharaj. And Dhruva Maharaj, he took all this risk. He went into the forest alone at the age of 5 years. But he had a motive. So that motive, when you have a motive, that's not so pure. But sometimes the Lord doesn't consider that motive. He leaves that motive out. He's only considering your service. Just like in the case of Putana. He didn't worry about her poison that she was trying to kill him with, but he took it that she came with motherly affection to render some service. So sometimes it's like that. And if a devotee has a particular motive, the Lord, He knows everything, directly or indirectly. He knows it. So therefore, He doesn't leave the devotee's desires unfulfilled, like in the case of Dhruva Maharaj. And we know that, one has to be anxious to see the Lord, to hear the philosophy, to hear about Krishna. Like we see Krishna is in the altar. Very beautiful Krishna. Radha and Krishna. Lord Chaitanya. But we should develop that urge to hear the topics about Krishna. Then we can see Him face to face. But that requires a little bit of purity. But how does it start? It starts by hearing. It's also dependent on the speaker and the audience. The speaker has to be qualified and the audience also has to be qualified. So within the audience you may be sitting and thinking, maybe when this fellow is going to finish this talk, then that affects the speaker. You aware of that? That affects the speaker. And that's a fact. Because it enters your consciousness enter the ether. And you find people get up and walk away. But no, you should have taste. But we have to be qualified, but you also get professional speakers. And they recite the Srimad Bhagavatam, for different reasons. For some material benefit, religiosity, sense gratification. But the Bhagavatam is meant to be recited like we were reciting earlier on. And it's supposed to be relished, both by the audience and the speaker. Both have to relish it. It's not that you hold this for 7 days like in India. Traditionally they have this this Sapta, Bhagavad Sapta for 7 days. No, it's not like that. So the purity comes by hearing this philosophy. By hearing about Krishna. And there's, different forms of liberation. And as you become pure, Sayujya, Sarupya, Salokya, Samipya, and Sasi. These different types of liberation. But Sayujya liberation is mainly, generally we leave it out as devotees. We consider the four. Because that's mainly for Mayavadi philosophers. They want to become one with the Lord, or they want to merge with the impersonal effulgence, which we discussed yesterday. And when one attains that type of liberation, and because it's not on the highest level and not pure, then one can again fall down. Patanti ada, which means they again fall down. So therefore Vaishnavas, they do not accept this type of the Sahujya Mukti. But we rather concentrate on Bhakti Yoga, rendering service to Krishna with love and devotion. Like our duty is to render service to the Lord. There's so much can be said on this particular aspect. That yes, we render service with love. But there's an interesting verse in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 54. You know this verse? But you have to learn these verses. Brahma bhuta prasanna atma na sochitina kangsati. Sama sarve bhuteshu mad bhakti labate param. You know this verse? One who is thus transcendently situated at once realize the Supreme Brahman and he becomes joyful, very happy. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. That's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. So we have to come to that level. Generally, impersonalists, as we said, they want to become one with the Absolute. But a personalist, a pure devotee, he wants to go further. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of the acharyas on this commentary, he gives a very nice analysis of this Brahma Bhuta platform. And I'll just paraphrase it. When one becomes free from the contaminations of the material modes of nature, then he becomes a satisfied soul. He no longer laments, or he no longer hankers or laments. And he doesn't, at this stage, he doesn't identify with the body of material things. He sees everything equally, both the gentle and the wicked. And he doesn't judge by the externals. And then, bhakti is a function of the internal energy. And it's distinct from Maya. You know what Maya is, right? What is Maya? What's Maya? The material energy, yeah. It's so then, as you engage in devotional service, then whatever contaminations you have, or whether you're in a lower platform of spiritual realization, it separates. You reach the higher stages. I don't know how much you know of the Bhagavad Gita. You know what's Nishkam Karma Yoga? You haven't done that, right? Nishkam Karma Yoga is where you are not attached to the fruits, but you're attached to the work itself. Like that, that's Nishkam. And then you come to a point where it's just Kevala, it's exclusive, it's full of love. And then you attain this pure devotional service. One attains it. And the Lord says, he attains, like that verse says, he attains pure devotional service. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, gives a very nice example. He says, it is just like a person keeping gold and gems within a mixture of beans. Just like you have a bottle of beans, and then within it there's gold and gems. So after the beans are removed, what remain? The gold and gems. So a devotee, when he engages in devotional service, that's what's happened. And then he's on this platform, Brahma Bhuta platform, when he has no material contamination. And then he can take to this devotional service. He attains this bhakti. Now, we mentioned that Dhruva Maharaj didn't desire anything in the beginning. He didn't want liberation at least, but he wanted an exalted position, greater than his grandfather, greater than Brahma. But even if somebody gets the position of Brahma in this material world, he is also considered a conditioned soul. At any time, you can deviate. So, there's an Acharya, Prabodhananda Saraswati, says that even if one is elevated to real pure devotional service, he considers even great demigod like Brahma and Indra on an equal level with an insignificant insect. How's that sounds? The reason is that, that an insignificant insect has the same desire of sense gratification just like Lord Brahma. Because they also want to dominate this material nature. So one is not pure if he has this tendency to dominate material nature. And Prabhupada speaks in the purport about dominating the material nature in other parts of the purport, not this one. And you dominate material nature. So there's a competition between conditioned soul. Even modern scientists are proud of their knowledge. So many people are proud of their knowledge. And they think that this is the advancement of human civilization. The more they can dominate the material laws, the more advanced they think they are. This is how people think. If they have the tendency to enjoy material nature and they acquire lots of material objects and facilities, then they think they advanced. But that's not advancement. So Dhruva Maharaj, in the beginning, he was like that. He wanted to dominate this material world. So he was not on that level of Vishuddha. He was not on that level of, what did I say, Moitari? What that means? Pure, yeah. So, although he had determination, he was very determined. Very, very determined. But then when he saw the Lord, when Dhruva Maharaj saw the Lord, he realized that it was just like broken pieces of glass that he was asking for. But on return, he received many diamonds. Because he's seeing the Lord face to face. And then he became conscious of how these other things that I was aspiring to have, this exalted position, is useless. Because he came now to that platform. What platform I told you? The Vasudev platform, the pure platform, where all contaminations were cleared. And therefore, he became ashamed of the demands that he made. And then, Dhruva Maharaj, he goes to a place called Madhuvan. But still, that thinking of revenge is deeply in the heart of a person. And that, that revenge, and that's not good. And that causes one moroseness. A person becomes morose. So if you have some motive, sometimes you may have, you join the Hare Krishna movement, and you may have a motive to become greater than Prabhupada. But that's greater in the sense that, because one thing it talks about fame, fame. The other quality is about fame. Like a personality like Prabhupada is famous throughout the world. Dhruva Maharaj, we hear of him in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But we hear a person like Srila Prabhupada, he's more famous than Dhruva Maharaj. Is that not so? Because every way he is worshipped on the planet. He is worshipped everywhere, different times of the day. And he spread Krishna consciousness. He gave this love of Krishna to everybody. Whoever he came across, they received his mercy. So he's in one sense greater. Why do you want to become God when you can become greater than God? Because when you love God, then you can control him. You can become greater. He'll be controlled by you. Isn't it? Why do you want to become God? So it's like that. So one has to purify himself. So when Dhruva Maharaj actually saw the personality of Godhead, there was no questions of revengeful attitude towards his stepmother, because he came in the presence of a pure person. And that's what happens. If you associate with pure people, then you won't have this revengeful attitude. I must get that fellow, I must try to find some fault. That's not good for spiritual life. So then, see, Krishna knows everything what's in your heart. He knows. He knows what you're thinking of. And there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Vedaham Samitani Vatmani cha Arjuna Bhavishyani cha Bhutani Mam tu Vedana Kaschana. And where Krishna is saying, I know everything what happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all that is going to happen in the future. So Krishna knows everything. And therefore he can fulfill your desire. But we have to remain fixed in Krishna consciousness. So as we read from the scriptures, because of his level of purity, then he was given a planet. What is the planet called? You've been doing this whole. What is it called? What's called the pole star, Dhruvaloka. And it's a spiritual planet. It's never destroyed, both in the total annihilation and the partial annihilation. It remains as it is. But then, because he had that motive also to rule, to have a greater kingdom, Krishna also fulfilled that desire. And then he was able to rule the kingdom for 36,000 years. 36,000. And then he was promoted to Dhruvaloka. So, pure devotional service is for Krishna, and it's for the pleasure of Krishna. What is the definition of pure devotional service? It must be for Krishna, it must be favorable, and Krishna must be pleased. That's pure devotional service. So whatever we're doing for the pleasure of Krishna. It's like sometimes we have to, fill in for other devotees to do some service. But that service for the other devotee, we shouldn't think, oh, I'm helping that devotee. It's his service. We should think, well, here's an opportunity for me to serve Krishna, because for the pleasure of Krishna. Because sometimes you may do that service not in a pure mood. Isn't it? Is that not true? So yes, we have to render service and we have to become free from this material desires, and we have to prepare ourselves to go back to Godhead, to the spiritual world. And then we will, when we at some point, we will realize our eternal relationship with Krishna. What our relationship with Krishna is. We don't endeavor too hard, but it's like as we advance, and in one of the purports, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of the coconut. As the coconut matures, the flesh separates from the shell. So as you mature in devotional service, you are preparing yourself, you'll be separating, you'll have this body, but you're not so disturbed. You don't have so much of material desires. You're becoming free from all that. There's a terminology which Rupa Goswami uses called Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta means you're liberated even within this body. Within this body. And you are free from that sense gratification. And we know that this is a verse I learned early on, but I forgot this verse. But last night I was looking at it, and I was hoping that we could discuss this verse. It's in the 4th canto, the chapter 22, text 39, which talks about, how impurities come. The devotees who always engage in the service of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord can very easily overcome hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, the jnanis, and the yogis, although trying to stop the waves of sense gratification, cannot do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Just like, like you have the river, the incessant waves of the river. And sometimes the waves of the river, they flow into the sea. And then the waves from the sea overfloods the water or the waves in the river. Similarly, the waves of, like the desire for material enjoyment are so strong. And sometimes they cannot be stopped. But in the process of bhakti yoga, it overfloods all that material desires. And this is the example this is the analogy that Prabhupada uses in this purport. And we should try as far as possible to do service, and gradually we'll become detached. There's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janyati Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ayutikam. So as you render devotional service unto the Lord, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So as you're rendering, you don't have to make an extra endeavor. You'll be getting detached because you're preparing your body for becoming pure. I mentioned earlier on, we come back to the Vasudev stage just now. And, we should try as hard as possible to uproot all the things that we have in our heart. And some things we know we're not going to tell others. It's about ourselves. But we have to work on it. We have to get all these unwanted weeds out of the heart. I just want to read how Prabhupada wrote in his purport. It may be argued that the waves of a river are incessantly flowing and that they cannot be stopped. But the waves of the river flow towards the sea. When the tide comes over the river, it overwhelms the flowing of the river. And the river itself becomes overflooded, and the waves from the sea become more prominent than the waves from the river. So the river is like, the comparison is about the material desires. And the sea, the waves from the sea, is like bhakti yoga. It overfloods the river. So the devotee, has to have many plans how to engage in service. And, you should be overflooded with thoughts of how I'm going to serve the Lord. One must not be stagnant in spiritual life. Otherwise, and as we make progress, then all this material life become, you have a very pessimistic view of the material world. One of the points we were discussing yesterday at the campus, one person saying, but we shouldn't have such a pessimistic view. But if you don't have a pessimistic view of the material world, you will not make advancement. Because you'll always have this idea that the material world is a place where I have to be. Got it? So you must have a pessimistic view of the material world. And therefore Yamuna Acharya, one of the Acharyas, he speaks, and it's there it's mentioned that, he spits of the thought of when someone talks about sense gratification. And the Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter, text 59, what is it? Param drisva nivartate. You get a higher taste and then you lose your lower taste. And one has to try to become pure. Even Prabhupada mentions in the Bhagavatam, he quotes a verse quite a few times, and I saw it quite a few times yesterday when I was researching it. And he quotes this verse, Mamcha yo abhicharena bhakti yogana sevate sagunan samityatan brahma bhuya kalpate. You know this verse? Anybody knows this verse? Yeah, one who engages in devotional activities, unalloyed service, at once transcends the modes of material nature and comes to the level of Brahman, to the spiritual platform. So we have to, rise above and advance more and come to that level where we come to that level of Vishuddha, what Dhruva Maharaj had come to. That pure stage. It's like we have to become that servant. Like every morning we say this verse. Ayi Nanda Tanuja, was it? Kinkaram Patita Mam Visame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tavapada Pankaja Sthiti Duli Sadasam Vichintaya. O son of Nanda, I'm your eternal servitor. Yet somehow I have fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. So we have to pray like that. We're doing it every day, but we may not be conscious. We have to, determinedly pray. And there in the Narottam Das Thakur, one of his prayers, he says, listen, I'll read the English. My dear Lord, you are now present with the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, Srimati Radharani. Now both of you, please be merciful upon me. Don't kick me away because I have no shelter other than you. Like when Dhruva Maharaj, asked his mother, what he should do, his mother directed him to the sages, to take shelter of the sages, to take shelter of Krishna, and Krishna is in the forest. So again, in this Narottam Das Thakur, in his prayers, he also says, I have no other shelter than you. You have to come to that point where Krishna is the only shelter. And the devotee, and the supreme, even the Supreme Personality of Godhead also becomes dependent on his devotee. Somebody who is pure. Because he is conquered by his devotee, and that is pastimes of Maria Yashoda. You see there. You can see like where Krishna is dependent on Mother Yashoda. And the Lord gets great enjoyment. Coming back to the word Vishuddham or Vishuddha, in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's also a verse, Sadvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Sabditam. Must learn this verse. Yad iyate tatra puman apavritaha. Sadvam chatasmin Bhagavan Vasudevo. He adok sajame namase priya. Vidyate. So this verse, Visuddha, means pure. It means pure. I'm always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudeva in pure Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudeva, is revealed without any covering. So when you come to this level, there's revelation. Because the soul is pure. We have to come to this level of Suddha Sattva. And the example given is like when iron put in fire, it becomes very warm. Isn't it? And red hot. Although it is iron, it acts like fire. Just like when there's copper. The copper is surcharged with what? Electricity. So its action as copper stops. Isn't it? It's no more copper, it's surcharged with electricity. So similarly, a devotee prepares his body like that. He prepares his body. And that verse I quoted earlier on again, you come back to that verse again. Mamcha yo abhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So the devotee, he transcends the modes of material nature and he comes to that spiritual platform, that pure platform, and that is called Suddha Sattva, or technically called Vasudeva stage, pure stage. So we have to somehow come to that level because then the Supreme Lord is revealed in the heart of the devotee. But here we see that Dhruva Maharaj, he saw Krishna face to face. He saw him face to face. And Jiva Goswami, If you read his books, Jiva Goswami in his Sandarpas explain, Vasudev, Sudasattva in the Bhagavad Sandarpa. And he explains Asatora Sata. You know what that means? Every morning we say it. Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravija Acharya Asatora Sata. What that means? 108. That 108 is added to the name of the spiritual master. That indicates that he is situated in that Suda Sattva, that pure stage, in that transcendental stage of Vasudeva. That's what it means. We've been hearing this for years, right? So that's what it means. The Vasudeva says, yeah, this is what it really means. So we have to come to that level. And when we come to that level, we will be free from, material desires. We'll be so pure that we will be entering the spiritual world. We recite so many verses in the morning, and then that Shishastastikam verses, those are very important verses. We shouldn't sing it like how Daya Sindhu read it. It should be read like that, word for word. It's really more, anyway, I find it more relishable like that. We should read it. Now I was used to reading it like that. Each word, yeah. And devotional service cleanses the mirror of the mind. And when the mind is clear, one can see, the Lord. And this cleansing, we all have to do. We're trying our best. There's so much more to say. But I just want to go to one point here. Yeah. It's quite a point. But anyway, we may have not much time. Oh yeah. Sukadeva Goswami details how Dhruva became free from material desire. First touch of the Lord's conch shell made the boy perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion, and he then understood the absolute truth and his relationship with all living entities. So, he became free from all those material desires. And we also have to work very hard at it. And every morning we come and see the deities, we can pray, please take away our material desires. There's so much to discuss. There's another we don't have much time. It's almost 8:30. Or it's 8:30 already. We took a few minutes more because it took a little while to settle, put the Vyasa sand down, which it takes time. So I took my exact time. Any questions or comments from what we spoke? Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Do you have any questions or comments? Or you like to share anything? Anybody like to share? You like to share anything? There's a microphone there. Anybody want to ask anything or share anything? Okay. So Srila Prabhupada Ki. Hare Krishna. Sorry you have to listen to me because there's nobody else to speak of. We didn't have anybody else who wanted to take the responsibility. So please bear with me at lunchtime and tomorrow. I have to do it. Hare Krishna.